I am going to tell you something that completely changed how I think about transformation. I used to believe that if you repeatedly told yourself something enough, you'd eventually believe it. Say the affirmation long enough, journal consistently enough, visualize hard enough, script enough, and one day it would click. Those practices have real value. I still believe that, but I started noticing something. Women who had said the same affirmations every morning for years. Women who could quote every self-development book, who knew exactly what their limiting beliefs were, who understood their patterns intellectually, and were still living inside those exact same patterns. So I started a different question. I started asking a different question. What if information isn't always what creates transformation? What if what's missing isn't another thought, but a different experience? That's what I want to get into today. So, why knowing isn't the same as changing? Think about how many things you already know, but still struggle to actually do. You know you shouldn't compare yourself. You know you deserve healthy relationships. You know that you don't have to earn your worth. That rest matters, that perfection isn't required. You already know all of that. So why doesn't knowing automatically change your life? Because information and transformation aren't the same thing. Information changes what you understand. Transformation changes how you experience yourself. So, this is why we get stuck in our heads. A lot of us try to think our way out of emotional patterns. We analyze, we read, we journal, we listen to podcasts, we take in more and more information. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But sometimes we can get so focused on understanding our patterns that we never actually experience them differently. It's like reading 100 books about swimming without ever getting in the water. At some point, learning has to become living. So, patterns usually begin with experience. Most of the beliefs that you carry today didn't start because someone handed you a list of ideas. They started as experiences. Maybe you spoke up once and then got laughed at. Maybe you expressed a need and it got ignored. Maybe you watched someone in your family struggle with money or learned early that being helpful is what made you feel loved. Those weren't just thoughts. They became emotional conclusions. Your mind made sense of them. Your body remembered them. And over time, they turned into automatic ways of responding to life. That's why the same situations keep triggering the same reactions. Not because you're choosing them, but because they're familiar. And this is why a real conversation can be different. And this is where I think a conversation gets powerful. It's not magic, and it's not because the other person has all the answers, but because a real conversation is alive. It's responsive. It's happening in real time. When you're talking to someone who's fully present with you, they can notice things you can't see from inside your own story. They can ask the one question you've never thought to ask yourself. Not from a workbook, not a script, the question that actually fits you. And sometimes the one honest question changes everything. Not because it gives you new information, but because it helps you to see the old information completely differently. I love watching something that's felt vague for years suddenly get clear. Someone will say, I don't know why I panic every time I raise my prices. And as we talk through it, a memory surfaces, a belief, a moment. Maybe she realizes that she watched her parents fight about money every night. Or the first time she asked to be paid what she was worth, she was told she was asking for too much. Suddenly, the fear isn't a mysterious cloud hanging over her anymore. It has shape, it has a story, and once something has a story, you can relate to it differently. And this is why being heard matters. There's something else that happens in a real conversation that we don't talk about enough. Being deeply heard is its own experience, not interrupted, not fixed, not judged, not told what you should do, just fully seen. For a lot of women, that's incredibly rare. Think about how often you're the one listening, the one supporting, the one holding space. Now imagine what it feels like to have someone else hold that space for you. Sometimes that's the first time your body actually experiences, ah, I don't have to carry this alone. That matters because change isn't only about what you think. It's about you finally feeling safe enough to experience it. You can feel the shift. One of my favorite moments in a session is watching someone pause. They've been talking, explaining, venting, trying to make sense of something, and then they just stop. Their shoulders relax. Their breathing changes. Their voice gets quieter, and they say something like, oh, or I've never seen it that way before. Or that makes so much sense. Does every challenge disappear instantly? Of course not. Life is way more complex than that. But insight changes how you move through life. When you understand the pattern, you stop fighting yourself. And when you stop fighting yourself, you have so much more energy available for building something new. This is why my work looks different. People ask me if I have a script or a step-by-step process. Not really, not in the way they expect, because every woman walks in with a different story, a different history, a different way she's learned to protect herself. My job isn't to fit you into this formula. It's to stay present enough to hear the story underneath the story, to notice where your words and your body are telling different things, and to ask questions that make you curious about yourself instead of critical. Transformation doesn't happen because someone tells you who you are. It happens when you finally see yourself clearly. If you spent years repeating affirmations, reading books, doing the inner work, please don't hear this as a reason to throw any of that away. It's probably served you really well, and it may have been exactly what you needed for the season. But if you've reached a place where you're thinking, I understand my patterns, so why do I still feel like I am living them? Maybe the next step isn't more information. Maybe it's a different kind of conversation, one where you don't have to perform, you don't have to have the right answers, the one where someone is willing to sit with you long enough to help you find out what's been there all along. The breakthrough isn't always in saying the same sentence one more time. Sometimes it's in finally feeling seen deeply enough that a new possibility becomes available. In my experience, that's where real transformation begins. So, thank you for being here today. I'd love to know in the comments, have you ever had one conversation that completely changed the way you saw yourself? Not because someone gave you good advice, but because they helped you see something that you couldn't see on your own. I will see you in the next one.